Now, we may not all know this, but the organs in our system is the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system is mostly made up of the brain, which is in the head. And if you didn't know that, that means you're a zombie. The second organ in the system is the peripheral nervous system. The cranial are the nerves that exit the skull or the cranium. These nerves mainly come out of the brain and they're passing through the skull on their way between the central nervous system and the periphery. The peripheral nerves that can be the spinal nerves comes out of the spinal cord, passing through the spine on their way between the central nervous system and the periphery. Now let's talk about the main tissues in the nervous system. In the central nervous system, the main tissues are the brain and the spinal cord. In the peripheral nervous system, the main tissues are the nerves that carry the impulses to and from the central nervous system. One of the specialized cells found in the nervous system are the neurons and the glial cells. The neurons have billions of cells. The brain itself has about 100 nerve cells. Each nerve cell has a cell body and many extensions. The central nervous system includes the nerves in the brain and the spinal cord. The neurons process information and glia provides the neurons with structural and metabolic support. Glia includes the oligodendrocytes, ependymal cells, and astrocytes. In the peripheral nervous system, glia gains from the neural crest. This is an example of how the neurons look inside the brain. As you see, the system has three types of functions: the sensory, interpretive, and motor functions. The sensory of the nerves gathers information from the inside of the body and the outside of the environment. The nerves carry the information to the central nervous system. The sensory information brings it to the central nervous system. It's then processed and interpreted. The motor nerves convey information from a central nervous system to the muscles and the glands of the body. The brain is the most complex organ in the vertebrate's body. The brain has contact with the rest of the body. For example, the brain warns you when something is hot or cold and how your muscles are going to move. The brain organ senses information and directly gives a response to the person. If you're wondering how the system works, well, I'll tell you. It all depends on the autonomic system that regulates certain bodies that process such blood pressure and the rate of breathing that works without conscious effort, according to Merck manuals. The somatic system includes the nerves that connect the brain, spinal cord with muscles, and sensory receptors in the skin. It also depends on tiny cells called neurons. The brain has billions of cells and they have special jobs. For example, the motor neurons take
carry
information
messages
from
away
eyes,
from the
ears,
brain
and back
nose,
to the reset
tongue,
of the
and
body.
skin to the brain.
Some of the diseases or disorders in the nervous system are the Alzheimer's disease, rabies, tetanus, syphilis, leprosy, epilepsy, central nervous system disease, neurological disorder, and Parkinson's disease. The Alzheimer's disease is unheard until 1980s, which is now known as the major single cause of senility or senile dementia. It includes short-term memory loss, disorientation, and difficulty with proper thinking. Rabies, or hydrophobia, that is a deadly virus transmitted to humans by a bite from an animal infected with rabies virus. Animals to most likely transmit rabies in the U.S. includes bats, coyotes, foxes, raccoons, and skunks. A neurological disorder are diseases of the brain, spine, and the nerves that are connected to them. There are more than 600 diseases in the system like brain tumors, epilepsy, Parkinson's diseases, and strokes. The Parkinson's disease is a long-term degenerative disorder of the central nervous system that mostly affects the motor system, although the symptoms become slower over the time. The most obvious to occur are the shaking, rigidity, slowness of movement, and difficulty with walking. One way to keep the organ system healthy is by avoiding alcohol or other types of drugs. It's because not only avoiding the injury that the drugs themselves can cause, but you're less likely to get involved in other dangerous behaviors that can harm your nervous system. Another way to keep the organ system healthy is to eat a variety of different foods. The minerals sodium, calcium, potassium, vitamin B1, and B12 are well needed and important for the nervous system. Your brain also needs healthy fats like nuts and fish. These healthy fats make a strong relationship between the nerves and the brain cells. These will improve your memory and increase your learning skills. Another way is by keeping it derated. By drinking lots of fluids, it won't confuse your memory. For example, how you forget what you learned in class. The best way to keep your organ system healthy is by getting plenty of sleep. By sleeping late, you tend to get up late the next day by feeling faint, inactive, and not being able to think. However, by sleeping early, it helps your memory rest and function more because when you wake up the next morning, you remember all the events that you couldn't remember before.
Created using Powtoon.